It's Mental Health Week, and I want to start by saying something that might surprise you. This episode is not going to tell you to do more. It's not going to give you a 17-step program. It's not going to suggest you download an app, a book, a course, overhaul the way you parent or teach. It's not going to add to the already very long list you feel like you should be doing and aren't quite managing it. In fact, it's going to do the opposite. Because one of the most important things that research tells us, and we're going to get into the science today properly because it's fascinating and is really hopeful, is that the things that most protect children's mental health are not the big things. They're not the grand gestures or the perfectly crafted conversation or the very expensive interventions. They're the small things, the ordinary things. The things that most of you, parents, educators, the people who love children and who show up for them every single day are already doing without realising it counts. The problem is nobody told you it counted. Nobody handed you the research and said, that thing you did this morning, that quiet thing, that unremarkable Tuesday morning thing, or I probably should say Thursday, that is doing something in your child's brain and body that will stay with them. So that's what today's about, the science of the small, and why in a world that keeps telling us that we need to do more, the most powerful thing we can offer a child is the simplest thing we can imagine. If you're new here, I'm Ashley Costello, this is the Resilient Kid podcast, and this is our Mental Health Week episode. Why we got this wrong. Before we get into what works, I want to spend a moment on why we've been looking in the wrong direction. Children's mental health is rightly a national conversation right now. The stats are sobering. We are looking at 1 in 6 in England between the ages of 5 and 6, which meet the criteria for a probable mental health condition. That's 5 children in every classroom of 30. Referrals to CAMHS, the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Service, have been increased dramatically in the years since the pandemic. Waiting lists in many areas stretch over a year. And I want to just add a caveat here. So I live up north, very proud northerner, lots of friends, I've done lots of work down south. And up north is one of the reasons, not just because I live here, it's one of the reasons we started our franchise up in the north. Because that number 1 in 6, it's 1 in 5 in the north. And I suggest the 1 in 6, that's not a true indication either. I think it's probably lower than that. So, in response to this crisis, we have, understandably, with the best of intentions, looked for big solutions. We have looked for massive programmes, whole school approaches, and to be fair, I have a whole school approach. We look at resilient schools. We earmark schools that need a helping hand. There are awareness campaigns, there are workshops, they are resources, all of which have value and none of which are wrong. But somewhere in the search for that big solution, we started to overlook something that the research has been quietly, consistently pointing to for decades. Something that doesn't require a budget or a referral or a training day. Everyday protective factors. The small, the repeated, the ordinary interactions between child and adults who love them and care for them, that build brick by brick, day by day. The neurological and emotional architecture of a resilient mind. If we look at the research on adverse child experiences, or ACEs as we call them, the landmark ACE studies, which we'll come back to, tells us that stress and trauma in childhood have real, measurable effects on the developing brain. And what the same body of research also tells us, and what gets talked about far less, is the protective relationships have an equally measurable counter effect. So every small moment of safety, of warmth, of being seen and heard. It doesn't just feel good, it does something in the brain, in the body, and in the developing nervous system of a child or a teen. Those moments are available to every single one of us every single day. So let's have a look at the science behind what small things actually do. Let's really dig deep into the research. Once you understand what's actually happening in a child's brain during these ordinary moments, you'll never look at them the same way again. So let's start with the stress response. Every child is born with what neuroscientists call the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which is essentially the brain and body's alarm system. So when a child encounters something threatening, overwhelming, uncertain, this system activates. Stress hormones are released, primarily cortisol, sometimes adrenaline too, and the body prepares to respond. And this is normal. This is healthy. And we know that GCSEs are going on up and down the country, SATs are going up and down the country. Stress in small doses with support builds resilience and it helps us focus. It's what researchers call tolerable stress. But here's the critical part. Here is where the adults in the room become the most important variable in this equation. There was some research by Dr. Charles Nelson at Harvard Center on the Developing Child found that when a child experiences stress in the presence of supportive, responsive adult, an adult who notices, who soothes, who co-regulates, the stress response is buffered, the cortisol spike is blunted, and the nervous system returns to baseline more quickly. And over time, with repeated experiences of this kind, the child's own stress regulation system becomes stronger, more flexible, more resilient. The adult in that room is literally, physiologically shaping the child's capacity to handle difficulty. And you'll hear me say this often, we are wired for hard things. And the adult doesn't have to do anything dramatic. They just have to be there, present, regulated themselves and noticing. This is what Harvard Center calls the serve and return relationship. Like a game of tennis, the child sends out a signal, a sound, a look, a behaviour. The adult returns it, responds, acknowledges. That back and forth, repeated thousands of times across childhood, builds the neural pathways that underpin emotional regulation, communication, and resilience. We see this in babies, don't we? When they're first alert, just after they're born, and they are looking for that serve and return. That's how they learn to speak and communicate. Thousands of tiny serves and return is the architecture of a healthy mind. Now let's bring in the ACE research, because this is where it gets really important. The Adverse Childhood Experience Study, one of the largest investigations into childhood trauma ever conducted, and I think it involves something like over 17,000 participants, found that experiences of stress, abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction in childhood have a profound long-term effect on their physical and mental health into their adulthood. This research is often cited in conversations about trauma. What it's cited far less is the equally robust finding about what protects children from those effects. Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris, a paediatrician, researcher, and one of the world's leading experts on childhood adversity, puts it simply. The dose of adversity matters, but so does the dose of protection. A child who has a trusted, consistent adult in their life, who experiences warmth, predictability, and felt safe, is significantly buffered against the long-term effects of adversity, even significant trauma. The buffering agent is not a program, it's a person, showing up day after day in small, ordinary ways. And then There's the work of Dr. John Gottman. I've mentioned him before, whose research on what he calls emotional coaching has transformed the way we understand the parent-child relationship. Gottman's study has found that children whose parents acknowledged and validated their emotions rather than dismissing or minimising them showed significant better outcomes across every measure. Every measure of well-being, that's emotional regulation, social skills, academic achievement, physical health markers. How important is that? We look at academics all the time, but actually this is more than academics, more than their physical health. The intervention was not complex. It was this: when your child feels something, name it. Alongside them, you will something along the lines of, "You seem really frustrated right now. That sounds like it was really disappointing." You're not fixing, you're not solving, you're not redirecting, you're just naming, witnessing. Being a witness, being present with the feeling rather than rushing past it. Children whose parents did this consistently were, in Gottman's words, emotionally intelligent. And emotional intelligence, the research shows, is one of the strongest predictors of long-term mental health and life outcomes that we have. One sentence, named alongside them, repeated across a childhood. Small thing. Small thing. So, let's have a look at small things in practice. I want to get really practical now because the science is compelling, but I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, fine, but what does that look like on a Wednesday morning when everyone's late and someone can't find the shoe, the permission slip was due yesterday, etc., etc. It looks like this. The 20-second hug. Research by Virginia Satter, family therapist pioneer in human connection, suggested that we need multiple meaningful touches every day for maintenance, more for growth, more still for healing. Physical warmth, like a hug, hand on the shoulder, ruffling somebody's hair, releases oxytocin, both for the giver and the receiver of that physical warmth. It literally signals safety to the nervous system. 20 seconds is long enough to feel it. You have 20 seconds even on a Wednesday morning when someone can't find their shoe. I have often, when things are starting to get stressy or heated, I have gone, stop, let's stop, everyone. And they'll all look as if to go, oh my God, what's happening? And I go, I just need a hug. And they go, oh, but we're going to be, please, just a hug, just a quick hug. And I almost make it like I need it, but I also know they need it in that moment. It brings us all back down, resets our nervous system. On the way out of the door, I will often put my hand on my son's shoulder as he's leaving for school. Go, mate, and I'll keep it there. Go, have a great day. I'll see you later. Another one, the transition check-in. In moments of transition, the school run, the school gate, the moment they come home, come through that door, these are neurologically significant. The brain is shifting states, and these are the moments when a simple, warm acknowledgement lands deepest. Not how was your day, because that question has a wall built round it for most children. Something smaller. Oh, lovely to see you. I've missed you today. Eye contact, presence, 30 seconds. You don't need to interrogate them. You don't need to ask a question. We've got into a habit of asking kids about their school day. That will come. Just tell them you missed them. Tell them that you love them. And save the questions for later, when they're chilled, when they're regulated, when they've had a snack, maybe when you're eating dinner together. Anything interesting happened today? Any chat today? That's all it takes. Third one, the named feeling. When a child is upset, overwhelmed, dysregulated, before you problem solve, before you correct, before you explain why they shouldn't feel that way, name what you seem really overwhelmed right now. Or that looks really hard. One sentence. That's all you need. It tells the child your inner world is real, it's visible, and it's not too much for me. I can handle that you're dysregulated. The single experience repeated across time is the foundation for emotional regulation. This one, I think, sometimes as parents, after they've got out of the toddler stage, we rebel. I was trying to think of the word. We rebel a little bit against the predictable ritual. Whether it's bedtime, breakfast, the same song in the car, a joke that only your family understands, rituals, particularly in families, and I would go so much as to say in class, are neurologically soothing because they are predictable and the predictability is safe. For a child whose nervous system is always to some degree asking what's next, the ritual answers that question before is asked. Small, repeated, ordinary, profoundly regulating for them. So think about, what is it that you do on a regular basis that is ritualistic in your household? For us, we have breakfast together before the day starts. Now, this is not every single day, but we are, I would probably say 8 out of 10. Things like saying goodnight before they go to bed. That hug, kiss goodnight, love you, see you tomorrow, see you in the morning, all of that. They are predictable rituals that just help the brain and the nervous system feel safe. This is your safe space. The repair. This is the one for parents and teachers who, we all are human, we all get it wrong. We know we can mess up, but if we get it right, 30% of the time they'll still turn out okay. The research, particularly the work of Ed Tronick, is on the still face paradigm, shows us that not the absence of rupture that builds secure attachment, it is the presence of repair. Children do not need perfect adults. They need adults who, when they get it wrong, come back, say sorry, try again. The repair is the message. The relationship is stronger than the hard moment. You are safe here even when things go wrong. The repair, that 70% that we mess up, as long as we've repaired, it will still be okay. Just a moment from the work, because I want to share you a little something from the work at the Resilient Kid that we do. Because all of this research is important, but I want you to hear what it looks like in a real family, in a real week, with real pressures. We're working with a mum, I'm going to call her Sandra, whose son has been struggling significantly. Anxiety, can't get to school, nights when can't sleep, days where he can't leave the house, and Sandra was exhausted. She read everything, tried everything, felt like she was failing at everything. In one of our sessions, I asked her to tell me about a normal morning, just walk me through it. She described getting up, getting breakfast ready, trying to get her son downstairs, the usual. She described the negotiation, the rise in anxiety on both sides. She trying to get him out the door, somehow standard was recognisable, it was hard. And then she mentioned something, almost as an aside, something she did every single morning without thinking about it. While her son was eating breakfast, she sat across from him, not on her phone, not making packed lunch, just sat. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they read something, sometimes they played a game. But she was there, present across the table every morning without fail. And I said, Sandra, do you know what that is? She looked at me. I said, that's the most protective thing you could be doing, that quiet, ordinary, daily presence. That is building something in your son's nervous system that no program, no intervention, no waiting list appointment can replicate. And she cried. Not because she was sad, but because nobody had ever told her that she was already doing, what she was already doing was enough. And the small things she'd never thought to count were in fact everything. We talk at The Resilient Kid about meeting young people where they're at, but we also meet parents where they're at too. And so many of the parents are exhausted, they're overwhelmed, and they're convinced they're not doing enough or that they're failing. This episode is me telling you, you are doing more than the small things count, and science says so. I want to just put in a little segment here for our educators. And I want to speak directly to them for a moment because everything I said applies to you just as much. Your version of the small things might look a little bit different. You might have 30 young people in a room and you can't be everything to everyone. I know that. But here is what research tells us about what a teacher can do that costs nothing and changes everything. Learn their name, use it warmly. Don't be afraid to keep getting them to put name badges on or write a little, like a little card that has their name on. Keep that around. Research consistently shows that being called by name, not as a correction, not as a warning, but warmly, in passing, activates a sense of being known and belonging that is neurologically significant. And it's easy to do. Notice the quiet ones. The children who present no trouble, don't ask for anything, and yet are still there, quiet, managing, checking. A quiet word, you okay today? Takes 10 seconds. And it can be the only moment in a child's day where the adult looks directly at them and choose to see them. Regulate even yourself first, because this is the hardest one. But polyvagal research tells us that nervous systems are contagious. A regulated adult in the room regulates the whole room, even if there's 30 kids. When you are calm, when you're present, when you're grounded, your children feel it in their bodies, irrespective of age. Before a word is said, your state is the most powerful classroom management tool you have. Acknowledge the hard stuff without fixing it. When a child comes in carrying something heavy, and you can often feel it, even when they don't say anything, you don't have to fix it, just acknowledge it. Looks like today's a tough one. I've got you. And that is enough. And sometimes for some kids, that is everything. So, it is Mental Health Week, and every year Mental Health Week asks us to do more, share more, do more. And those things matter, but I want to leave you with this. The most powerful mental health intervention in a child's life is not waiting on a waiting list. It does not require a referral or a diagnosis. It does not cost money, and it does not require you to be a therapist or a coach or to have read all the right books. It requires you to be warm, consistent and present. To name up, to repair when you get it wrong. To sit across the breakfast table without your phone. To say good to see you and really mean it. To notice the quiet ones. To stay regulated when everything in you wants it to escalate. The small things are not the consolation prize when the big things aren't available. The small things are the thing. The science has known this for decades. It's time we all caught up. You are doing more than the breakfast table matters. The school gate matters. The name feeling matters. The repair matters. The 20-second hug matters. It all matters. Every ordinary, unremarkable, quietly revolutionary bit of it. Happy Mental Health Week. Go home, do the small things, but please know they are anything but small. Thank you for spending this Mental Health Week with the Resilient Kid podcast. If this episode resonated, please share it with a parent, educator, colleague, anyone who needs to hear that they are already doing well and it counts. All the research references and further reading are in the show notes. But before we go, I'd just like to give a little shout out to Imi. I met Imi on a corporate job this week, and without going into too much detail, she said to me, "Do you know, I love listening to your podcasts and I feel like it's changed my life." And Amy, lots of love to you and yours. And I just want to say, comments like that make it worthwhile. So thank you. Thank you. And thanks to all the listeners out there. Until next time, please keep doing the small things because they are everything.